Hello, this is the video for lesson 8.4, multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. We're just building on your knowledge and skills with polynomials for this unit. And as I've written here, in this lesson, we are going to do a couple of things that are very familiar to you already. The main idea here is that we need to distribute and combine like terms if we can in order to simplify the expressions for our answers. So let's just start now with example number 1. The directions tell us to find each product, tells us that we're multiplying here, and simplify if necessary. That's where your combining like terms comes in, if you can do it. Sometimes you just can't do it. So in example number 1, we have negative 5x right in front of the parentheses. We need to distribute that to every item inside of the parentheses. So I just start here with the first one, negative 5x times 2x to the fifth. You multiply the coefficients. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. And then x times x to the fifth is going to be x to the sixth. Then I'm going to move on to the next term. We have negative 5x times 7x to the third. Negative 5 times 7 is negative 35, so I'm going to put minus 35. And then x times x to the third is x to the fourth. And lastly, take that negative 5x, take it times the negative 9x. Since there was a minus sign in front of that 9x, that's a negative. So negative 5 times negative 9 is positive 45. And x times x is x squared. Then just take a look at that final answer. All of the x's have exponents, but they're different. We have an x to the sixth, an x to the fourth, and an x to the second. So you can't combine anything to simplify the answer. So this is the answer, this trinomial here. Okay, moving on to number 2. A little bit of a smaller problem, but the idea is still the same. You're going to distribute whatever is right in front of the parentheses, which is a negative 3y. You're going to distribute that and multiply it by each item or each term inside of the parentheses. So negative 3y times 5y is negative 15y squared. And negative 3y times positive 2 is negative 6y. Again, take a look at that. You cannot combine the two terms together because this first one has an exponent of 2 and the second one has an exponent of 1. It's invisible. Those are not the same exponents, so you can't put them together. So that's my answer. Negative 15y squared minus 6y. Example number 3. Getting a little bit more complicated here with two different variables. We still are going to distribute whatever is in front of the parentheses, which is a 2x, times each item inside the parentheses. So here we go with the first one. 2x times 4a to the fourth. Well, 2 times 4 is 8. Got that. You can't combine or put together the x and the a to the fourth. Like, you're not going to say that that's like x to the fifth or a to the fifth because they don't have the same letter, or that would also be known as the base. So the only way to write this is just as a multiplication problem. Typically we start with the first letter alphabetically, so we would put a to the fourth and then just put an x right after that. That shows that they're being multiplied, which is what you do when you distribute. You just can't simplify it. That's how to write that. So moving on, we're going to distribute the 2x to the next term. So that's 2x times a negative 3ax. So that'll be a negative 6. A, and then x to the second because it was an x times another x. That's x squared. And lastly, take that 2x all the way times the 6x squared. It's a positive, so that's good. 2 times 6 is 12. And then an x times an x squared is going to be x to the third. Oops, that's not a good 3. There. Okay, so we have 8a to the fourth x minus 6ax squared plus 12x to the third. There is no way to simplify that anymore because each term has different exponents on those letters. And in order to combine, they have to have the same exponents. And they don't. So we're done with that one. Number 4, more distributing here. We're distributing negative 4xy to each item in the parentheses. So to this first item, well, the coefficients will give us a negative 20 because it's negative 4 times 5. There's an x right here in front. We're taking that times an x squared, so that'll bump up to x to the third. And then the y is just going to be put right behind it because there wasn't another y to multiply it by, so it's just there. Next term, you have negative 4xy times negative 12xy. So negative 4 times negative 12 is positive 48. And then each letter is being multiplied by another one. So x times x is x squared, and y times y is y squared. And the last distributing to do, we have negative 4xy times positive 7y squared. Negative 4 times 7 is negative 28, so I'll put minus 28. X is going to stay x because there's not another x in this last term here. But then the y is multiplying a y squared, so that'll bump up to y to the third. Take a look at that. Can you combine anything together? The answer to that is no, because they do not have the same exponents. So that is your answer. And number 5. In front of the parentheses, the only thing we have is an a, so that's the only thing we're distributing. So this will be a times 5a, which is just 5a squared. And then a times a negative 9, so that's negative 9a. The distributing now is done because the parentheses stopped. They closed the parentheses. So you're done distributing. So you only have this minus 2a left over. It just drops on down. And in this problem, you can actually simplify this answer because the last two terms are both just plain old a's. Just watch your signs. So the 5a squared isn't going to change. There's nothing to combine with that. But then we have a negative 9a minus 2a, and that's negative 11a. So I'm going to put minus 11a. And that is the simplified answer. Alright, we will move on now to number 6. Number 6 looks pretty long, and it is. There's a lot to do in this problem, but we'll just take it step by step. We actually have 2 sets of parentheses and some distributing to do with each set. So we'll just do that first. Starting at the left here, we have a 5n that we are distributing throughout the first set of parentheses. So 5n times 4n to the third is 20n to the fourth. Then we take 5n times positive 6n squared. 5 times 6 is 30, so plus 30n to the third. We'll keep distributing that 5n times a minus 2n, so that's going to be a negative or a minus 10n squared, because n times n is n squared. And one more thing, we have 5n times positive 3, so that's positive 15n. All right, with the second set of parentheses, in front of that is a -4. So we are distributing a -4 to each item here. So that's going to be -4 times n squared, which is just -4n squared. So minus 4n squared. And then the -4 is going to get distributed to the 7n. So that would be a -28n. So that's really key. Make sure you remember if there's a minus sign in front of your number that's in front of the parentheses, then you're distributing that negative. So make sure you remember that it's negative. You could also change the minus into plus and make that number negative if that helps you. Okay, so now that I've distributed, now I want to look at this and see if I can combine any like terms. Let's start with the highest exponent, which is that first term, 20n to the 4th. Are there any other n to the 4ths? No. So that will just get rewritten. Nothing to combine with that. Sometimes I like to cross them out as I do this when I have such a long problem. So that tells me I did nothing with that because there was nothing to combine with it, but I'm done. I don't have to look at it. Next highest exponent is the n to the 3rd, and there is not another n to the 3rd, so there's nothing to combine with it. So I'll just drop it down into my answer. Plus 30n to the 3rd. I'm done with that. Then you should notice that you see a couple n squareds. You have this one here and this one here. Look in front of them and be careful. This is a -10n squared. And there's a minus in front of the 4n squared. So I'm going to think of that as -10n squared minus 4n squared. And that's -14n squared. So I combined those. I'm done with that. Done with that. And then lastly, just any plain old n's. And I have two of them here. I have a positive 15n and then a minus 28n. So 15n minus 28n, oh, that's -13n. 15 minus 28 is -13. And those are done. I combined those two, so there's nothing else left to combine. Just double check that answer. Nope, all the exponents are different, so can't combine anything else together. And so that polynomial is my answer. Okay, now we're going to do a couple area problems. Let's just start with number 7. We're supposed to find the area of each shaded figure, and you can see on number 7 the entire thing is shaded. So we're going to find the area of the whole thing. The problem is it's not a perfect shape. It's not one perfect rectangle. It's not a triangle or a circle. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to divide it up. You should be able to see that you can make a couple rectangles out of it. And there's a couple ways to do that. I'm going to do it by simply splitting it up right here. So I'm going to draw this line here. And that splits up the picture into what I would call a big rectangle on the left and a smaller rectangle on the right. Almost looks like a square, but we don't know that for sure. And so the idea here is that to find the area of the shaded region, we're going to find the area of the big rectangle, we're going to add it to the area of the small rectangle because together they make up the entire shaded region. They are both rectangles, so that's kind of nice. You should know that formula for area equals the length times the width. So let's just take the big rectangle first. The length and the width of the big rectangle are the 3c plus 4 and the 2c up here at the top. So to multiply those, I think it makes sense, based on this lesson and the other examples that we just did, to put that 2c first and to say that it's 2c times 3c plus 4, the length times the width. And we'll simplify that in a second by distributing. But let's take care of the small rectangle. Okay, so that was the big rectangle. 2c is the length, 3c plus 4 is the width. You want to show that you're multiplying those, and we can do that by writing them right next to each other like I just did. Then I'm going to put a plus sign to add the small rectangle, but it's the area of the small rectangle, so you got to look at that. The small rectangle has a length and a width of the 3c and 2c minus 1. And again, it makes sense to put the monomial in front of the binomial, because that's how we're used to seeing them, like the problems were above. So 3c times 2c minus 1. That's just the length times the width. So now you're going to do your distributing and then you're combining like terms. So in the first set here, before the plus sign, you have your 2c times 3c. That would be 6c squared. And then 2c times a positive 4 would be plus 8c. Now this is nice that that's a plus sign right there, so I'm just going to bring that plus sign down. That'll be good. And this is 3c times 2c, which is 6c squared. Oh, there's a minus sign here, so it's a 3c times a minus 1, which is a minus or negative 3c. And then combining like terms, you have 6c squared and another 6c squared, so that would give you a total of 12c squared. And then 8c, it's a minus 3c. 8c minus 3c is 5c. That is a positive 5, because 8 minus 3 is positive 5, so you put plus 5c. And that's an expression for the area of the shaded region. So since it's an area expression, you would want to put units squared to finish out your answer. So there you have number 7. Number 8 is more typical of some of the other problems we've seen earlier in this unit. We again have two rectangles, but the shaded region is going to be the big rectangle minus the small rectangle. They are still rectangles, so we will still be using A equals length times width. So looking at that big rectangle, the length and the width are the 5x minus 2 and the 4x. Again, write this in a way that'll make sense, it'll make it nice to distribute. So you want to put the 4x, the monomial, in front of the binomial to distribute. And then I have this minus sign because I'm going to be subtracting the area of the small rectangle. So I'm going to put minus, and then the area of the small rectangle is going to be the 2 times the 3x plus 1. That's the length and the width of that one. So 2 times 3x plus 1, length times width. Now we'll just work on distributing. So 4x times 5x is 20x squared. 4x times a minus 2, it would be a minus 8x. And then be careful with your second set of distributing. This is a minus 2, so negative 2 times 3x would be a negative 6x. And then negative 2 times positive 1 would be a minus 2. And combine like terms, the 20x squared cannot be combined with anything. The only things that can be combined are right here in the middle, are x's. It's a negative 8x minus 6x, which would be negative 14x. And then this minus 2 at the end can't be combined with anything, so we just rewrite it, minus 2. And again, label would be units squared. Units squared. There. All right. Now, on the rest of the notes, we're going to be solving some equations. It's been a while since you've done that, but we will be using the skills learned on this side of the notes and just working on getting a variable by itself. Okay, So remember, to solve an equation, again, you just want to get the variable by itself. First thing you have to do, if you ever see parentheses, is to distribute, like we were doing on the front. So in problem number 9 here, we're going to distribute this -2 to each item in parentheses, each term. So that'll give me a -2w. It'll also then give me a -2, because -2 times +1 is -2. The parentheses have ended, and so I'm done distributing. I just copy down everything else. Plus w equals 7 minus 4w. Okay, now the next thing to do is to clean up each side of the equation by combining like terms. Again, just like we did on the front of the notes. So if you notice on this left side of the equation here, the left side of the equal sign, you have a couple w's that you can put together. And so you want to do that to make that side a little bit smaller. So that's a -2w plus w, or plus 1w. So -2w plus 1w is a -1w. And then the -2. And then equals 7 minus 4w. Okay, now you're at the point where you want to start moving your w's to one side and then your numbers to the other side and getting that w then by itself. So a couple different ways. There's actually like 4 different ways to go from here. I'm going to choose to add the 4w since it was a minus. Remember to show your work, show what you're doing to both sides. Let's see, -1w plus 4w is 3w. So 3w minus 2 equals 7. Now just working on getting that w by itself, so we're going to add the 2. So 3w equals 9. And then that 3 is multiplying the w, so the opposite of that is divide. I'm going to divide by 3. And so w equals 3. And we got it. That's our answer. W equals 3. Now, if you ever want to check your answer, you can always do that with equations. You would just substitute 3 up into your original equation. You'd go all the way back here to your original equation and put a 3 in place of each w. And then you would have to just do the problem by following order of operations. All right, number 10. This one's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to as far as solving, simply because we're going to get some exponents, but you'll see how it turns out in the end. So we're distributing this x, so x times x is x squared. X times +2 is +2x. Parentheses are over, so I'm just going to copy down the -3x. Next is my equal sign. Then I have more distributing to do. X times x, that's another x squared. X times a -4, -4x, minus 4x. Parentheses are done, so the +5 just gets copied down. Now you want to clean up each side as much as you can. On the left side, I have x squared. And then 2x minus 3x is a -1x. So x squared minus 1x. On the right side, I can't combine anything over there. There are no like terms. So x squared minus 4x plus 5. I just rewrite it. Okay, now I'm ready to start moving things around. And look at your x squareds. If you want to get rid of one of them, you're going to have to subtract it. And that's going to end up getting rid of it on the other side as well. So I'm going to put minus x squared underneath both of them, and they both go away, because x squared minus x squared is 0. X squared minus x squared is 0. So that's pretty nice. So then you have -1x equals, what's left? -4x plus 5. All right, let's get our x's all on one side, so I'll add 4x. -1 plus 4 is 3, so it's 3x equals 5. Divide by the 3. Well, 3 doesn't go into 5, so we're just going to leave it as an improper fraction, x equals 5/3. There you have it. Feel free to pause the video and try 11 and 12 on your own and then come back and check them. I think that would be good practice for you. Okay, for number 11, we have a couple sets of parentheses again. This time they're on the same side, but we're just going to distribute first. So c times c is c squared. C times positive 3 is plus 3c. With the second set of parentheses, be careful of this minus, it's making that negative. So you have a negative c times c, which is a negative c squared. And then a negative c times a negative 4 will give you a positive 4c. Finally, we have our equal sign, and the other side doesn't have parentheses, so we'll just copy down 9c minus 16. Alright, let's clean up that left side. It's long. Look at the c squareds. You have a c squared minus c squared. Again, they cancel out. Look at your c's. You have 3c plus 4c, so that's 7c. 7c over there, and then it equals 9c minus 16. Want to get all of our c's on one side. Let's get them on the left side. So we're going to subtract 9c. 7c minus 9c is negative 2c. It's equal to a negative 16. And divide by negative 2. And c equals positive 8. Pretty nice. And the last one, number 12. Distribute. D times d is d squared. D times a minus 1 is a minus 1d, negative 1d. Parentheses are done, so I'm done distributing, so just copy down the plus 4d. Equals, have some more distributing here, that's d squared again, and a minus 8d. Okay, we can make the left side shorter, we can combine like terms there. So d squared, this is a negative 1d plus 4d, that would be a positive 3d. That equals d squared minus 8d. Your d squareds are on opposite sides, so if you would try to move one of them by subtracting it, because they're positive, you would end up getting rid of both of them. So that's what will happen. We're going to subtract d squared from both sides like we're supposed to, and they will both go away. At this point, you have 3d equals negative 8d. Okay, don't stop yet, because your d hasn't completely gone away. You're still trying to get the d by itself. So at this point, you might look at that 8d and say, oh, well, that's negative 8d. I'm going to add 8d to both sides. So that'll give me a total of 11d. But what's that equal to? Well, that's equal to 0, because negative 8d plus 8d is 0. So now just proceed to divide. Divide by the 11, just like you normally do. If there's a number in front of a letter, you divide to get that letter by itself. And last time I checked, 0 divided by 11 is 0. Do not put that this equals 11. That's not right. That's 11 divided by 1. If there's a 0 on top of a fraction, that means it's equal to 0. So that's what d equals. D equals the number 0. Okay, that is lesson 8-4. You're ready now to do the practice quiz and the assignments.